Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be preparing for seed starting. I'm going to show you how I plan out my garden, what I use for seed starting, the equipment and all that. So let's get started. Alright, so the first thing I do before I get ready to seed start is I plan out my garden. Every year I grab some graph paper, I draw all my beds out, and plan on where I'm going to plant everything. So this helps me get a head start so when it's time to plant, I'm not all confused out there. This just gives me a plan, I know what to do, and for me, starting everything indoors, all my seeds, it helps me determine what types, how many I'm going to grow, so I also don't have to question that when it comes time to seed start. So I'll kind of show you the layout here and just give you an example of just cabbage. I'm not going to show you how I plan out every bed, but you'll understand and get the idea. So as I was saying, I get graph paper every year. These are all the beds. I do each box is a foot by a foot. So I already know I have asparagus growing here, strawberries are here. I planted some strawberries last fall in this bed, so hopefully they come back this year. If not, I will move some over to there or buy some strawberry plants. I know I want to do the corn there, potatoes here, and the rest I still have to plan out. So these beds here are 4 by 10. Nope. 4 by 8. I drew them wrong. These are 4 by 10. Nope, I did not draw them wrong. 4 by 8. These ones are 4 by 10. These are the wood ones, metal. So I'll just go through and show you a little example of how I do it. So I'm going to grow the cabbage the same way I did last year, which was in a bed with the Brussels sprouts. And I had a pea trellis in the center. That was probably 8 feet long or so, 9, somewhere around there. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'll do my little pea trellis in the center. And the last couple years I've been spacing my cabbage at 12 inches on center. I think that got a little too tight for me. They grew well. I didn't have any problems, but I'm going to space them out a little further apart this year. I think I'm going to do 18 inches. So I know I'm going to do cabbage on one side, Brussels sprouts on the other. So at 18 inches on center, I'll put one there. That would be 1 foot. This would be 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. 18. So I can get 7 cabbages. So then I'll look at the 3 varieties I want to plant, and I will write down next to that bed the varieties and how many of each I want to do. So I'm going to for sure do two of each, and I'll have one more to decide which one I want to do 3 of, which probably that one. So I'll do 2, 3, and 2. I also know I do have room on the sides here. I just have not determined yet if I want to do Brussels sprouts on the sides or a couple more cabbages on each side, just because I know that our Brussels sprouts have not done well. So that's kind of how I plan out a bed. That's how I plan out all of them. And then there's no guessing, or I'm not in a pinch trying to figure all this stuff out at the last second. I know when it comes to plant these seeds indoors, I can just look at my piece of paper and it'll have everything all laid out and how much of each to start. So the cells I grow in are 6 plants to a cell. So right now I have 7. So I like to try to keep it a little even, so I probably will, just to be safe. And if I have a little extra room in the garden somewhere, which this year I don't think I will probably just go ahead and I try to keep it in 3s or, multiples of, I guess. So I will just go ahead and plant 3 of each. So you saw there how I plan out my garden before I get ready to seed start. That was just the cabbage. I have tomatoes, peppers, all that stuff that I do as well on here. And it does help out, saves a lot of time, and it also keeps you from overplanting way too many of, say, a tomato. Some people can get carried away and plant way too many plants indoors when you're seed starting, and if you have limited space, it's just better to have it all planned out. If you have any questions on that, let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, that's as far as I'm going to go with showing you how I plan that out. If you'd like to see more, you can also let me know. So next we'll go into with what I use to start seeds indoors. And that's just the normal flats and cells. So this is a 10 by 20 flat that I use. I have to get some more, but so with the flat, all these cells just sit inside here, and you bottom water. You just lift the one out, bottom water in there. But anyway, so I like to use the deeper cell, so that way the plants can grow longer in here, versus if you use a shallower one, you might have to transplant plants you start in these up into a size this big, or even to a single one. I'm not a big fan of transplanting, so I try to stick with the bigger ones. I mean, you could use these for something that doesn't grow fast, or you only grow indoors for a couple weeks or so before you put it outside. Now the other thing I will do with all of these, I will wash them all. As you can see, they're still pretty dirty from last year. So it is very important to take all your cells, also all your flats, and I like to get the sink full of some warm hot water and add bleach to it. That will disinfect and clean these up nice. That way you don't get like any fungus or anything that's left in here from the previous year. It will kill all that off and you're ready to start fresh. So very important to clean everything off before you start seeds again this year. Now if you don't have all this stuff, there's plenty of things you probably have around the house that you could use. Solo cups work great. You just make sure you poke a couple holes in the bottom of a solo cup. You could use yogurt containers. If you don't have a flat, you can take your solo cups or yogurt containers and put them in just one of them like aluminum like roasting pans, the disposable ones that you can get at the dollar store. And then you can set your solo cups or your yogurt cups inside that to water. So you can pretty much use just about anything to start seeds in. Just make sure you put holes in the bottom of whatever you use. So I think you got the gist of what I use and what you can use for starting your seeds in. Now we'll go to my office, which is also the grow room where I have my stand set up with the lights, and I'll show you that. Alright, so now we're in the office / grow room. As you can see, I just bought a pretty heavy duty stand from, I think, Menards. You don't have to have anything this big. Just one shelf will do, but like I said, I have a pretty big garden, and I start everything in here. I buy very little plants, and if I do, I buy from a greenhouse. I do not buy from a big box store. I support all the local greenhouses around here if I do buy plants. So this, I have a few flats here, but start a lot of seeds in here. I can set these this way, and I can do 4 flats up here. And I have 3 shop lights on each shelf, which I can easily lower when I need to, which is right away. Because you do want when you're first starting out, you want your lights to be just a few inches above your plants starting out. And that does depend on what lights you have. So with me just having regular shop lights with the regular old tubes in them, these are not LEDs, I have to put mine pretty close to start out. Now with the light bulbs themselves, you want something with at least 2,000 lumens and at least 5,000 Kelvin. I try to get as high as I can, so I try to shoot for like that 2,500 lumens and like 6,500 Kelvin or 6,000 Kelvin, somewhere around there. So you do not need to spend $150 on fancy lights. These have done just fine for me. I haven't had any problems every year. That's about the basics of what you need for seed starting. There are some other things you can use, like a heat mat. I do not use a heat mat. I've never used a heat mat, and I'm not going to waste my money on a heat mat. A lot of people do use them. I don't. Now, I'm starting them indoors where it's always above 65, 70 degrees in here. So I don't ever have any problem with the germination. So the heat mat that's used just for the germination stage. So like things like tomatoes, peppers, it just speeds up the germination process because it keeps that soil nice and warm. So if you're like maybe starting outside in a greenhouse in early spring, heat mat might be useful. Or say you got a basement where you start your seeds and it stays a little cooler down there, then a heat mat would work. But here, I don't need it, and I'm not going to use it. One thing I would recommend also for the lights, you don't have to have it. I do have them on a timer. I keep them on for 14 hours. So it kicks on at like 7 in the morning, shuts off at 10 at night or whatever it is. So that's something that's very useful. And this timer will control all 3 shelves. So the other thing with the lights and the timer, so when I first plant stuff and set it under here, I won't turn the lights on for like depending on the variety or what I'm planting. I've done it for a while now. I kind of know how many days it takes for them to sprout. So what I will do is I will just have the lights off. They'll be sitting here in the dark for 2, maybe 3 days, and then I will turn all the lights on without the timer, and I will leave them on 24/7 until all of the seeds have sprouted. That way I know none of them are sprouting in that off time and getting laggy, because that has happened before where the light's off at night, half of the seeds have sprouted, and then a few sprout that night, and you can tell they're just a little bit laggy. I mean, they have always done fine, but I will leave them on 24/7 until they have all sprouted, and then I will put the timer on them. Another thing you can have is a fan. I do use a fan. You don't have to have a fan, but after the seeds have all sprouted a little bit, I'll set a fan up, not close to them, but I'll set it off a little bit, turn the fan on just enough to give them a little to where you can see them moving just a little bit. That will strengthen them up and get them used to a little bit of wind before you actually acclimate them and put them outside. I think that's all. That's how I would go about seed starting. Hazel, my little daughter's dog here, she loves me. Right, Hazel? But anyway, I was saying, that's everything I do to get ready for seed starting. And with only maybe a week or two left, the next video should be planting stuff. So in that video, I lied in the last video and said this video I would show you how I do my seed starting mix, but I will just do that in the next one when we go to plant. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, comment below. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.